You hear me? Good stuff. Whenever following Sunny, I think everyone feels a little bit underdressed. But yeah, good to be here, and hello Interchain. Cool to be kicking off the first talk of DEVMOS 2024. I'm Ollie. I'm the relatively new developer relations lead for the Interchain Foundation, and yeah, it's an honor. It's cool being you. It's a little bit weird. It's that time where you sit a little bit outside of the loop, and all of the confusion and chaos going on around you allows you to see things a little bit differently, a little bit of a different vantage point. There I am. So coming from dev relations on like the app chain side, things using all of the components of the Interchain stack, to now being on the front line of sort of stewarding the broader Interchain stack in its entirety has sort of shown a multitude of, let's say, specificities. And I'd like to dig into those today with some of our findings and perspectives and where we can take things, where we can go from here. It's the first talk of the day, so we are keeping it light. We are keeping it light-hearted and high level. But nonetheless, I think it's going to be a spectacular 2 days, and things are going to get a lot more deep from here, from how I've seen the talks are laid out. So I called this talk a high-level approach to the Interchain developer experience, an inappropriately dreary name. So in the spirit of keeping it light, I'm changing it. The talk is now called Cosmic Cat Herding, Further Wrangling the Interchain DevX Beast. And a unique beast it is. I'd even argue elephantine. So it might be a talk about cats, but let's address the elephants. Speaking with Sam Hart a few months ago, he used this beautiful term, wayfinding. Love the term, but yeah, we don't have much of that. Wayfinding is an ancient mix of techniques that travelers use to find their way through unmarked land, sea, and I guess someday stellar voyages. Techniques like reading stars, maps, charts, compasses, and dead reckoning. Right now, people like Zaki, Marco, and others act as a chart or a compass for the ecosystem. And you kind of need them at hand to find things quickly a lot of the time. While the ecosystem wouldn't be as extraordinary without their excellence, this is without a doubt a barrier to entry for incoming devs. I believe this comes down to our previously fragmented, or rather distributed way of working. Conway's Law, which it's now in fashion to quote during many different speeches, sort of defines the structure of a software system as closely following the organization structure of the teams building it. And I think that's pretty pertinent with us because we've got a deliberately decentralized organization design across those building the Interchain stack and on the Interchain stack. And it's great for building a decentralized future, but is not inherently conducive to a great developer experience. But I'm not just here to tell you my theories and shill the software law from before the moon landing. We set out to validate this. And so we asked you, the developers. So to all the engineers who have in the past few weeks been filling out the builder survey we've been sending to the far reaches of the Interchain, we thank you. And now let's start off with a good morning activity. This is the put your hands up section. From our survey results, who thinks more than half of our ecosystem's devs use Cosmosm? More than half. 3 hands in the back. Oh, some more starting to go up. But I can tell you now it's over 60%. So yeah, now if I ask that again, everyone could put their hands up. It's actually, this was pretty enlightening myself to see just how prevalent Cosmosm actually is in the ecosystem. We can see how devs have decided to split their time there. A different question. Of the 67% of devs who say they implement new features on their app chain in less than 6 months, who thinks that over 90% of them aren't on V50 of the SDK, even though it was released 214 days ago. Yeah, some good hands, yeah. Yes, you're right. So over 90% of people aren't on SDK 50, was released ages back. But and yet 40% of the devs we surveyed are at least somewhat dissatisfied with the pace of development of said Interchain stack, which, to be fair, still means that the majority are satisfied. So that's a plus. Okay, last hands up one for now. Who thinks that docs and support represent the greatest frustration for developers? Yeah, seeing more hands now. Or maybe you're just onto how I ask questions in the affirmative. But yes, limited or outdated documentation. Docs and support kept coming up over and over. One spectacular response to the builder survey, quote, said, "Docs are horrible, code is difficult to read, the Interchain Developer Academy is unnecessarily verbose." Love it. Fantastic. We can see the elephants. And we have a starting point for our future cat shipping activities. General fragmentation, lagging docs and resources, a chonker of a developer academy, and generally slow uptake for teams adopting the latest versions of the Interchain stack. Something we have had some positive feedback on was the developer portal for newcomers, but it still makes for a great starting point for change. Being the front door to the Interchain, we know this is one of the key landing zones for developers, particularly new developers, and getting it right is, well, pretty important because it has the opportunity of being the cosmic positioning system, a GPS for the cosmos, if you will. Right now, new developers landing on many other ecosystems only need an optimized flow for getting to grips with smart contracts or roll-ups first. The Interchain, on the other hand, has a far wider ranging set of possible developer personas. Those who also think in smart contracts, those looking to build a roll-up, or better, a full sovereign chain, those wanting a consensus mechanism for something entirely different, and importantly, those looking to integrate IBC into something already existing to expand the Interchain, among many others. Designing a system to try and fit all of these personas so that they have a good wayfinding experience is a pretty challenging puzzle, but it's something that us across the teams are actively putting our minds to, and in the lead up to a revamped cosmic positioning system. So get excited for that in the future. On to GitHub. So this is where you search for product info, updates, and support. GitHub, 85% of existing builders head there for product information and updates to the stack. And some of you would have actually already seen that there's a little bit more of a unification of discussions starting to happen. Things are defragmenting themselves as more of the conversation is happening on the main discussions page of the org. And it's starting to look like it's going down relatively well. Early days, but we're going to double down and triple down on making GitHub a nice unified place for the stack. I mentioned docs. So these are materials you most frequently use. Yeah, actually, another question. Who's used the new IBC bot on the IBC doc site when you ask for IBC things? Not one. Cool. This is exciting because it's really cool, and it's similar to the Osmosis docs bot, and it's really slick. It was as we start to engage AI for a lot of the things we're doing, and it becomes more prevalent in the ecosystem. I think it goes a long way. Currently, its knowledge base is just built on IBC, so asking it questions outside of that knowledge base, you're not going to get good answers. But this is something also we're planning to incorporate all of the docs and resources into that bot for everyone there. Lastly, Interchain Developer Academy. We haven't set next cohort dates yet because we want to breathe new life into it. It's monolithic, difficult to navigate and update. So we're looking to make it more modular, we love modularity, and accessible with a focused funnel to getting developers involved in its participation and its support. These are a lot of exciting things that I believe will make giant leaps in the cosmic wayfinding experience. And as you can imagine, they are elephantine tasks themselves that will take a lot of chipping away. But while these are our objectives, we can all continue to remember that developer experience ultimately is also open source, and we plan to make it even more so. There has been vigor and momentum from many of the builder teams out there wanting to help with the Interchain Stack dev experience, and I'd like to capture a lot of that energy. I'm open for chats. Telegram and Twitter handle are the same, and we're continuing to still receive responses on that builder survey. So if you haven't filled it out, that would be a great help for more data points. We love data. And I'm also reigniting the monthly Interchain DevX call. So if any of you have some DevRels to send or come along to that call that happens every month, please reach out and come be a part. Now, naturally, we are also very interested in numbers, KPIs, metrics, numbers of devs in the Interchain, and those adopting the Interchain stack. And I'm sure many of you are like me in that every year when the Electric Capital Developer Report comes out, that's something I'm always eagerly excited for. But what many people don't know is that the report is compiled off GitHub data on project repos that are submitted to a public repository. So it's got a great layout to neatly include sub-ecosystems, but I know that it's missing a lot of the ecosystem's work. So I urge you over the weekend, if you're building something cool or you have a repo that you think might not be included, please make a PR or mention it to me, and I'm happy to do it on your behalf, so that we get a more accurate picture of our ecosystem across the broader ecosystem. Additional exposure too. I think we're at a turning point at the moment. There's been a lot of motion and commotion, but thanks to the new strategic hires at the ICF, I love the signal that I am now a part of it as well. That focus on DevRel. I think we are in one of the most grand positions for forward momentum that I know of, and it's an era of action. Especially across the teams working on the Interchain stack itself as we build better. Join us on this journey as we chart our way to a better wayfinding experience. I think it's appropriate to close out the talk about cosmic cat herding with another response from the builder survey. It simply said, woof. Thank you.
What is the role that you, lead DevRel at Interchain Foundation, what is the role that you play amongst all the other sovereign L1s in the ecosystem right now that all have our own individual DevRel operations?
Well, I think we've all seen that that DevRel across the ecosystem and DevX has been a patchwork that sort of follows that Conway's law I'm talking about, that we've got a very fragmented design to the ecosystem. There are sort of centers of mass of the ecosystem, if you will. I think the ICF is one of those. And so having a place to channel the energy of a developer experience across a whole ecosystem, that's what I'm here to help assist with, to try and optimize for where pieces have been sitting in very fragmented locations and where this patchwork of efforts has been happening in its own silos. So that's a lot of my goals and my mission. And yeah, as I say, I'm still relatively fresh here, but would like to, fresh to the ICF, but I've been in the cosmos for a while. But that's where I'd like to capture a lot of that momentum and see how we can best fit the builders building on the Interchain stack and bringing new adoption to it. So reach out again, and thanks for the question. Yeah.
a somewhat spicy question.
Yes.
Maybe not that spicy. Interchain stack and new GitHub org. Is it going to be like, are there going to be things like named Cosmos or named Interchain? Like, what's the branding there? Just curious.
Definitely there for the source. Yeah, so like the ecosystem at large has already seen this clear movement towards having that separation of naming. Cosmos, Interchain, we've got people kicking off on Twitter all the time about needing something a little bit more neutral. So yeah, as the Interchain stack and the Interchain Foundation, like I'd like to see that neutrality come about in a lot of the developer experience, so that teams aren't fighting with some of the drama of the past in places, while also working forward towards the Interchain, which is what I know most of the people in this room are already calling it. But naturally it's all important together. It is all the same ecosystem, but giving it that Interchain name, I think, become something of momentum. So we'll follow through more with that.
I've got a question.
Oh, there we go. Jake, yeah.
So, how do we improve collaboration in the Cosmos? I think that's kind of an issue. There's like all these different teams, and oftentimes they reinvent the wheel, and we can't even get a standard like token factory adopted consistently across the ecosystem. Yeah. So, what role do you think the Interchain Foundation can play in improving collaboration across all these distributed teams?
That collaboration word, I think, is incredibly important. We were chatting about it earlier as well, I think with the ecosystem at the moment, with a lot of the fragmentation of resources, you mentioned like double work and so some of the stuff that I have personally struggled with, pain points of mine entering the ecosystem and now entering the ICF, is that my own wayfinding experience of discovering what's out there has been hugely limited rather. And so actually knowing about new things coming to the ecosystem and everything that's happening at all times, and being able to see what's already been built and what we should be contributing upstream to versus building a whole new thing ourselves, is mixed. So I think simply having better discoverability of a lot of this, better wayfinding, we're gonna be able to not reinvent the wheel every single time we want to do something new, and I think that fits with that collaboration word as well. Again, contributing upstream rather than reinventing the wheel, simply out of knowing things exist. Cool.